Thanks, Rita. Hello, welcome to Spotlight Tonight. Clamping down on a late-night nuisance. A new camera that records sound levels from antisocial driving is being trialled in South Devon.
This is about people who are thinking it's quite funny, being really inconsiderate, putting their foot down, having a laugh and absolutely causing mayhem for people who live and work around the area.
Also tonight, hoping for a much-needed half-term boost. After a tricky year, the tourism industry is looking for good visitor numbers this week to kick off the season in style. Supporting a Somerset lifeline, the Slinky bus that keeps people connected.
And I've come to Exeter City's training ground following the departure of manager Gary Caldwell to meet the man who's taking over, in the short term at least.
First tonight, it's an issue many of you feel strongly about, and now more's being done in South Devon to tackle late-night nuisance driving. For residents and businesses in Paignton, the noise from screeching car tyres and adapted exhausts has become an unwelcome presence in the early hours. Now, a special traffic camera which records noise levels as well as pictures is being trialled in the seaside town to try and curb the antisocial behaviour. Initially, drivers making excessive noise will receive warnings, but repeat offenders could potentially have their cars seized. John Ayres has more.
Remember this? Back in November we told you about the nuisance driving in Paignton, where cars and motorbikes with adapted exhausts were roaring up the esplanade in the early hours. Well, this could be the answer. A traffic camera that records noise levels as well as the driver's number plate.
These cameras offer us a new edge that we haven't had before. We work closely with the council with their CCTV monitoring. But obviously that has limitations in terms of recording audio, and essentially that's what these cameras do. They give us that footage to work with to build an evidential package together.
We haven't got a silver bullet for this, but I do believe that what we've got here in place does provide that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, effectively. I was going to say deterrent, but actually, more importantly, it's there to be able to capture that evidence.
It's good news for the hoteliers and residents here who've been calling for action for some time.
The police have stepped up to the mark and they've actually done a decent job. And we're now following that up, as the community is following that up, by engaging more so with the council and the police to say, well, there's a lot of other things that are actually going on, like shoplifting, there's a lot of drug addiction, there's lots of things that are the knock-on effects of that, and we're trying to bring about a more respectful society in Paignton.
Paignton is a designated hotspot policing area in Devon and Cornwall with a focus on antisocial behaviour. It's benefiting from extra high visibility police foot patrols in the town with the help of Home Office funding and community engagement.
The ultimate enforcement is the removal of their vehicle. This isn't just about a car or a vehicle that's particularly noisy as it drives along. This is about people who are thinking it's quite funny, being really inconsiderate, putting their foot down, having a laugh and absolutely causing mayhem for people who live and work around the area.
Of course, the recent poor weather has undoubtedly been a deterrent to the antisocial behaviour and nuisance driving that has gone on here in Paignton. But as we move to the summer months, we'll see whether this new technology has worked. John Ayres, BBC Spotlight, Paignton.
For many in the region's tourism industry, this half-term marks the start of the season. After a tricky year and some terrible weather so far in 2026, hopes are high that the sector can bounce back. Well, our tourism correspondent Kirk England is here with more. Kirk.
Thanks, Nat. Well, this half-term is when many attractions open up after winter, and it's when we start to get a sense of how big this year's tourism season might be. So let's have a look at some statistics to show how important tourism is, and these are for the wider southwest. So tourism supports almost 200,000 jobs, and it's worth around £11 billion to the economy. But after that stormy weather And as pressure on family finances continues, how do people here feel as we head into this half term? Well, Angela Calwaits has been to find out.
I'm at Torquay Marina, which sees a lot of tourists each year. But what about on the first half term of 2026? How are things looking today? It may be a bit nippy, but people are out in force enjoying the blue sky in the bay.
My daughter, my granddaughter and my 2 great-grandchildren are visiting, so we thought we'd come along for a little stroll along the pier.
And how's it been? A little bit blowy?
A bit blustery, but it's nice to not have any rain.
Bus into Brixham tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do the bay, yeah. See a bit, as long as the rain doesn't put us off. But we don't mind.
No.
We don't mind. Yeah. It's just a few days break. Yeah.
And getting wet
Doesn't matter.
don't hurt anybody,
does
does it?
Soon dry off.
Just makes your hair curl.
So strolling in the sunshine is popular today, but what about nearby attractions? How are they faring?
I know there's lots of talk about tourism going through a dip, but actually both at Kent's Cavern and at Bodmin Museum, the other venue that I look after, our visit numbers have increased year on year, and our programme and scheduling really, I think, contributes to that.
This is what Poppy and her owners thought when they emerged from below.
We're local people. Kent's Cavern, very popular place, I know, in the summer, with all the tourism in here. They just had a lovely breakfast in there, haven't we, Mum?
Oh, I've loved it. It's the first time I've been in here.
Yeah, you very enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yeah, lovely.
A little further away near Dawlish, one of the bigger holiday sites says they're working hard to keep people coming in.
I feel it's a bit of a battle at the moment. I think our costs have gone up massively. It's affecting our reinvestment into the park for ourselves, and I think that's had an effect on everybody. If we can bring people down for half term, we know that's going to have a knock-on effect on the local economy. They're going to go and visit Dawlish and other areas, which is great.
But the site does also welcome locals.
Despite the weather, it's a nice walk up here from Cockwood. So we get fresh air and we come here, we have a nice coffee, and meet friends. So it's a great facility to have nearby.
So lots of people around this half term. Something the attractions hopeful will continue into the future. Angela Calwaits, BBC Spotlight.
But one big area of growth for the sector, including here, is international visitors. Now, Visit Britain says it's pushing the southwest as a destination for those from countries like China, Holland, France, Spain and Sweden. But we're still waiting to see what will replace Visit Cornwall, the organisation set up to promote the county as a destination which went into liquidation last year. Now, finally, Visit Devon says there are challenging times ahead for the industry and says it's lobbying hard for more funding to market the southwest. So lots of interest in how the next few days shape up, as it could be a sign of things to come, Nat.
Thank you very much indeed, Kurt. We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks. Next, from on to off and back again. Well, some councils like Plymouth had already decided to go ahead with elections. Exeter had taken the controversial decision to postpone, but now the government has stepped in with a shock U-turn, saying those elections will now go ahead after all. The change of heart, which has taken many by surprise, means Labour could now lose control of Exeter City Council when 13 of its 39 seats are contested in May. The government says it's because of recent legal advice. Our political reporter Miles Davis is in Exeter.
Well, there was a very heated meeting of all councillors just over a month ago, and at the end of a 3-hour debate, Labour leader Phil Bialek stood up and said he would be asking the government to cancel elections due to take place in Exeter in May. He claimed the council needed to focus all of its time and resources on local government reorganisation that will see Exeter City Council, along with all of the district and the county councils, abolished. Now, the government granted permission for the elections here to be cancelled, but has now carried out a major U-turn and says elections in Exeter and across England will now go ahead. The government decision came out only days ahead of a planned High Court hearing where Reform UK was challenging the legality of cancelling these elections. It means that in Exeter, 13 of the 39 seats will be up for grabs, and heavy losses could see Labour lose control of the City Council. Miles Davis, BBC Spotlight, Exeter.
Time now for a quick roundup of some other news. And a 63-year-old man's been ordered to court to face a charge of raping a woman in Weymouth 2 years ago. Dorset police say the attack happened in an alleyway between Stanley Street, Derby Street and Queen Street. Officers are asking people not to discuss the case online or on social media. A public consultation is underway on the future of 4 fire stations in Dorset. Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service says it needs to make essential savings. 8 stations in the 2 counties are earmarked to close, with 96 jobs at risk. The consultation is open until May, and public meetings will be held in affected communities. Hospital bosses in North Devon say a new MRI suite will mean patients don't have to travel long distances for scans. The facility, costing more than £2 million, has been paid for by NHS England to enhance diagnostic services. A wildlife charity in Somerset is seeing an increase in the number of otters killed on roads. Secret World Wildlife Rescue says flooding in many areas is pushing them out of their usual habitats. Many have also been left injured and taken to its centre for the winter. Now, it's a decade since a groundbreaking referendum in St Ives where people voted to restrict the sale of new properties to prevent them becoming second homes. Supporters saw off challenges from developers in the High Court, and the model was copied in other towns around the region, including Foy, Padstow, Mevagissey, Linton and Lynmouth. Reform leader Nigel Farage recently said it's a scheme he favours as a way to ensure there are enough homes for local people, dubbing it the Mevagissey solution. But is it really working? Lucy Fisher reports.
St Ives, a rare glimpse of winter sun, albeit filmed a decade ago. It's that long since I sat on the harbour talking to locals about why they'd fought to protect new builds from being sold as holiday homes.
I think there's a very real housing crisis in St Ives. And for young people leaving school, the vast majority will never be able to own their own properties in St Ives, and even getting rented accommodation for them is a very, very real problem.
83% of those that took part in the vote back in 2016 voted in favour of a clause known as H2, which restricted new build property to permanent residents only. News channels around the world were interested. Russia Today interviewed the then Mayor Linda Taylor.
The town of St Ives was absolutely overwhelmed with other inquiries, not just from across the UK, but across the world.
But has that optimism, like the weather, turned rather more gloomy?
Can I say that it's worked totally in its entirety? No, because obviously, you know, some people will have got away with purchasing a new property, saying they're going to live there all the time, and it's not happened.
And the current Mayor of St Ives would go even further.
10 years on, looking back at the scheme, has it worked?
One of the problems with the scheme was one of the little loopholes, and the way you get around it was if you wanted to buy a holiday home in St Ives, you had to buy an existing property. So what happened was all the existing properties suddenly became, you know, the people with the money are the people coming in to buy these second homes.
So it put the existing property market out of reach of local people?
Yeah, because the people who are coming in with all the money are the people who want a property that they can, you know, have as a second home or rent out.
Despite the reservations, this kind of scheme has found a new supporter in Nigel Farage.
There are some communities, I think of Mevagissey, where they've built housing up behind the village, and they've pretty much made sure that's available to local people, genuinely local people only. I think that must be our answer. That has to be our answer.
So a decade on, and it seems one thing's clear. There's no easy solution to housing for local people. Lucy Fisher, BBC Spotlight in St Ives.
Well, the issue of whether those referendums are working now was discussed on Sunday's Politics show.
That means that developers don't build any new housing, then you get no more affordable housing at all. And a recent study from the LSE suggests that these schemes have achieved exactly that. They've achieved a reduction in affordable housing. In the end, the answer is to build more affordable housing, and in particular to allow councils to build more affordable housing. And I'm glad we're starting to move in that direction nationally.
I think the fact of the matter is that it's part of the solution. Making this more for homes affordable for local people is absolutely essential. But also social rented housing is a massive issue. Margaret Thatcher, when she was in power, we used to have 34% of our housing stock was social rented housing, council houses. It's now down to 17% nationally. In Torbay, it's just 7%.
And you can see more on that debate about second homes on the BBC iPlayer. Just look for Politics Southwest. On to some other stories now that you can find on the BBC News app. New evidence in the case of a man who spent 23 years in prison for murder suggests he was framed by police. It follows an investigation by BBC Panorama. Plans for a new children's special educational needs and disabilities school in Devon have been submitted. Plymouth City Council will consider it at a meeting next month. And two vessels serving the Isles of Scilly, the Grey Maritha and the Solonian 3, are up for sale. It comes as two new ships come into service this year and next. For all of those stories and much more, check out the BBC News app. Somerset Council says it's determined to protect an on-demand bus service which provides a vital lifeline for its passengers. The Slinky bus, which is run by the council, has made 10,000 journeys in the last 18 months. It gives people who don't live near a regular public transport route a ride into town or to the doctors. Dan Ayres has more.
Yeah, back again. All aboard Somerset's Slinky bus. It's helping people get into town in a place like Somerton, where there are fewer bus services.
Well, there's not an awful lot of buses, and they don't cover very many locations. So, because the Slinky can pick you up from anywhere, take you anywhere, because of my mobility problems, that really helps me to get to places. Really, I couldn't get around any other way, other than depending on neighbours to give me lifts, because I don't have a car.
Somerset Council says that this service in Somerton and across Somerset has seen around 10,000 journeys just this year alone. And it is really helping people, especially in a rural county like Somerset.
Good afternoon, Somerton Slinky. Can I help you?
You can book the service on an app or with a quick phone call to one of the depots. Tina has been driving for the Slinky bus for more than a year now and said it's not like a normal regular bus service.
It's different to the rest of this, where I go out and meet different people, especially the older people, where they can't always get into town or anything like that. They can rely on us Slinkies getting there near enough, door to door.
Thank you. See you. There is a similar service with bookable minibuses called Westlink, serving parts of Bristol, North and East Somerset, Bath and South Gloucestershire, although there are doubts about whether that's sustainable. But Somerset Council says the Slinky bus is essential in helping people get around such a large and rural county.
You can really see that the passengers that we're carrying rely so much on this service, and it isn't just to get to and from the doctors, it's to build them back into communities, to go shopping, to meet up with their friends. It's phenomenal.
And with the demand growing, this service isn't hitting the brakes anytime soon. Dan Ayres, BBC Spotlight in Somerset.
A further 36 universities, including Exeter, are facing legal action from more than 170,000 current and former students who claim they didn't receive the full education they paid for during the COVID pandemic. It follows a settlement between University College London and the Student Claim Group. Universities UK, which lobbies on behalf of more than 140 universities, has been approached for comment. Now, thanks very much for your comments on our top story tonight about antisocial drivers in Paignton. Emma writes, there is a very cheap solution: ban adaptive exhaust systems and impound cars with them. Nick says an easy option would be to stop the cars, check they've disclosed any modifications to their car to their insurance company, and if not, seize the vehicle. And John tells us back in the 1990s we had similar issues, but local police like me, along with the traffic unit, commenced jumping on these youngsters. Problems ceased within weeks. And finally, Dean points out it's not just Paignton where noise and poor behaviour of drivers takes place. Launceston is just as bad. It's horrendous. And being woken up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. with a loud bang and hearing them speed by your home, it's an accident waiting to happen. Again, thank you very, very much to everybody who took the trouble to email us. Right, let's go to the sport now. Oh, it's all been happening. Exeter City manager Gary Caldwell has left the club to join his former team, fellow League One side Wigan Athletic. The first team coach, Dan Green, takes charge of tomorrow night's game at St James Park against Wycombe. A further announcement regarding a permanent appointment is set to follow. Andy Burkitt has been at the Grecians training ground today.
The banner says, "We've got Super Gary Caldwell." Well, not anymore, they don't. After nearly 3.5 years in post, this was his final goodbye. It's not hard to see why Caldwell has returned to a club he won the FA Cup with during a 5-year playing stint and the place where he first dipped his toe into management. And being 45 minutes from the family home might have been the deciding factor.
So my full focus had to be on preparing the team, trying to win a game of football.
This morning, the worst-kept secret in football was confirmed when the former Scotland international was unveiled as the new Wigan boss. The respect is clearly mutual, with a statement from Exeter City's interim chair thanking Gary for his efforts, leadership and commitment, adding that he'd represented the club with great passion and professionalism, whilst at the same time being a powerful advocate of the club's ownership model. Today, the baton was handed on to first-team coach Dan Green.
The accent's very different.
What is the legacy, would you say, that's left behind?
The way that he's pushed the club forwards, his aspirations, his competitiveness, I think he leaves a real positive legacy on the football club.
Do you see yourself as the person to take the club forward?
I mean, I understand the question and I've been asked it a couple of times up there, but honestly, the way that the last couple of days have been, my focus has been on supporting the players, supporting the staff and preparing the team for Wycombe. So maybe once the Wycombe game's done, I can give some consideration to that. But I think really I'd be struggling to give you a different answer at the moment because I've just not had a chance to give it any thought.
Well, the job in the short term is just to keep the good form going. The Grecians have only actually lost once in the league so far in 2026. And Gary Caldwell's last game in charge was a 0-0 draw at St James Park on Saturday. It wasn't a remarkable final game in charge, but a clean sheet and a point means Gary Caldwell leaves St James Park with City in 14th and on course for another campaign in League One next season. As we heard earlier, Dan Green with assistant manager Kevin Nicholson will be in the dugout for their match against Wycombe tomorrow night.
Decent ball in! Oh, and somehow that's gone in.
There were calls for change at Home Park earlier this season, but not a peep at Blackpool on Saturday, where Plymouth Argyle put on one of their best performances of the season. They raced into a 3-0 half-time lead, with new signing Herbie Kane pulling the strings. Caleb Watts added a fourth as Argyle moved up into the top half of the table. A second hat-trick in 2 games from England under-20 winger Cameron Riddle helped the Exeter Chiefs thrash Gloucester 48-14 to go to the top of their Prem Cup group and stay on course for the semi-finals. Meanwhile, the women's team move up a place into 3rd in the PWR after sealing their bonus point win over Loughborough with the clock in the red. At the Winter Olympics, there was more heartbreak for Devon skeleton slider Marcus Wyatt. He finished just outside the medals in 4th in the mixed pair event. But Cornish pole vaulter Molly Caudry was celebrating. The former indoor world champion went 40 centimetres clear of the field to claim a 6th British title. And Somerset's Tom Banton had to steady the ship for England as they struggled again in their latest T20 World Cup win. The 27-year-old who top scored in the win over Scotland on Saturday holed out for 30 as England set Italy an unlikely 203 to win. Andy Burkitt, BBC Spotlight.
Lots of sport happening, isn't there? Now, you might remember last week we reported on the rare turtle found on a beach in the Channel Islands. We've got some good news to end the programme on. We're told she's now on the mend at the Sea Life Centre in Weymouth. Crush, who's a young loggerhead, was left stunned by the cold, unable to move or eat. She was flown over to Southampton last week and driven to Dorset. After spending time in quarantine, she's now been introduced to a larger tank, and she's going to meet Weymouth's other turtle, who's also been suffering from the effects of the cold. Eventually, Crush will be reintroduced to warmer waters. We wish her well. Warmer waters, Bea. We can only dream of them at the moment.
Like rain as well.
Saw the sunshine today, though.
I know.
Is it getting better?
No,
oh.
But at least, at least it's all sunshine. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have got some mixed weather, but we've had some sunshine. We've had a lot of cloud. heavy showers, but we have had some brightness, and I think people will take that if we get to see some sunshine. But as we head through the next week, and for many it's half term, it is going to stay quite unsettled. There will be some sunshine, also spells of rain, and certainly for the next few days it will be colder. So it does sound like I'm covering all bases, but I pretty much am as we head through this week. We are going to see a lot of different types of weather. It was blustery earlier today. Our cameraman Phil went to Wembury, but you can see we did have some glimmers of sunshine. The winds have been quite strong through the course of today, particularly on that south coast of Devon and Cornwall. We've had gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour, but it's kept the surf up. We've had some choppy conditions in the waters, and that's likely to continue as we head through the next few days, particularly on Wednesday into Thursday. But as we head through the next few hours, we have got briefly a little bit of something quieter, a little ridge of high pressure for tonight, and that does mean we could see something quite chilly overnight. I think we will see a frost in places before this system comes in, and once that hits the cold air, we could see a touch of hill snow for a time through the course of tomorrow. Wednesday, it's a bit of a mess, a lot of cloud, outbreaks of rain that could be heavy, still quite chilly, and it is going to be really quite windy on Wednesday into Thursday as well. We have got showers out there. By and large, most of them will start to die away as we head through the night. We could still see a few heavy, potentially thundery ones for West Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. But underneath largely clearing skies and with slightly lighter winds, I think it will turn quite chilly. So these are the values for towns and cities. I think probably for parts of Dorset, Somerset, even into Devon, we could see a frost in some rural spots with the risk of some ice where we have had some showers. But it does mean largely dry conditions to begin tomorrow with. Quite quickly, though, we'll see this next front coming in. The cloud coming in a lot more time ahead of the rain. So the rain arriving into the afternoon, but you can see the white just on the edge where it hits that colder air. We could see some snow largely over about 300 metres. So I wouldn't get too excited. I think for most of us it is going to come in as rain, and particularly further east we could hang on to some dry weather until the very end of the day. But the winds will be picking up. There'll be gusting gale force quite widely along the coast, and those temperatures really struggling tomorrow. So I think it will start to feel much chillier than recent days with highs of 6, maybe 7 degrees. The Isles of Scilly, I think we'll see that rain arriving early doors. So a wet day here, the rain spreading in heavy at times, and the winds will be quite gusty, particularly towards the end of the day. We could see gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour. Here are your times of high water for tomorrow. Your high tide at Padstow is at 17:44. So it is initially for most of us lighter winds along that coastline, but those winds will pick up as we head through the day. And the further east you are, the longer you'll stay dry. That rain spreading in as we head through the afternoon. By the afternoon, I think all of us will be wet and windy. But I think that will set the scene for the next couple of days, really. We are going to see some outbreaks of rain, heavy at times on Wednesday. Still feeling quite chilly through Wednesday and Thursday. But you can see actually quite a big jump into Friday and then again at the weekend. Probably at the weekend, these icons are a bit pessimistic. I think we should see some sunshine and we could see temperatures of 14 degrees. Nats.
Thank you very much indeed, Bea. Thank you. And that's all from us for now. I'll be back with the late news, 10:30 tonight. If you can join me, that would be lovely. And we hope you have a very lovely evening. Take care. Bye-bye.